In the last few moments, we have had the evidence that Boris Johnson has submitted to the Privileges Committee inquiry. This is the inquiry looking into his behaviour at Number 10 and whether or not he misled the Houses of Parliament. The submissions basically give an outline to what happened, how the revelations in Sue Gray's report shocked the public. He also then says that he accepts that the House of Commons was misled by my statements. We know that already, that he has accepted that he did mislead the House. The nub of what this report is about is whether or not he intentionally misled the House, or whether he was speaking in good faith, and whether or not he believed that he was actually telling the truth. He says they were made in good faith when he made them to the House. He accepts that the House of Commons were misled, but that they were in good faith, as I've just said. Let's bring in our correspondent, Ali Fortescue, who joins us now. Ali, you've only just had a few seconds to glance at this, but what leaps out at you?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a scandal that brought down a Prime Minister with an 80-seat majority, and the Privileges Committee already in an interim report said that it must have been, they suggest, obvious to the former PM that COVID rule breaches did happen. So this is a big moment. This is Boris Johnson's defence for what happens. And we're just sort of reading it really for the first time now. But in the fourth paragraph on the second page, he says, I accept that the House of Commons was misled by my statements, that the rules and guidance had been followed completely at Number 10, but when the statements were made, they were made in good faith and on the basis of what I honestly knew and believed at the time. I did not intentionally or recklessly mislead the House on the 1st of December 2021, 8th of December 2021, or on any other date. I would never have dreamed of doing so. So this is obviously him saying that he did not recklessly, this is what the Privileges Committee are looking at. Did he recklessly mislead the House when he said no rules were broken? His allies have really focused on two things. Firstly, that he was acting on the advice of officials. He didn't know that these rules were being broken. Secondly, questions about the Privileges Committee process itself. I was speaking to one Boris Johnson ally yesterday who said that this was a Labour-led committee. Of course, Harriet Harman, who chairs the committee, also questions about the Sue Gray report, which, as we know, looked into the partygate scandal. We know that Sue Gray has been talking to the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, about working for him. So his allies are shining a light on that. But as I say, the interim report has already said that COVID rule breaches must have been obvious to the former Prime Minister. Boris Johnson will give 4 hours of evidence to the committee tomorrow. That is going to be a blockbuster moment. His political career hangs in the balance. And as you say, we have just in the last few moments had this long dossier. I think it's about 50 or 60 pages long. Boris Johnson setting out his version of events and why he thinks he did not recklessly mislead the House.
And Ali, obviously I've been hanging on your every word, but at the same time, I've been trying to sort of speed read through this document as we have it in front of me. I'm up to page 29. The House of Commons Committee has said that this written submission contains no new documentary evidence. And that's key, isn't it? Because we were perhaps expecting there to be something like text messages or any sort of written guidance that Mr Johnson had been given to assure him that what he was doing was within the bounds of law. And that does not appear to be contained in this document. There are lots and lots of phrases of Mr Johnson talking through it. I did not recall a conversation. I do not remember that. So he's appearing to go through each individual allegation that's been made against him and setting out his reasoning and his understandings of that point. But it doesn't appear that this does include any new written information. We've also had a little bit of guidance, Ali, about why this information has been released to us today, because we did think it was going to be released to us last night, but the committee has said that it was given to them yesterday afternoon, but had a number of errors and typos in it, and they also had to redact some names, so that's why there has been a delay. But perhaps are you surprised that there is no new documentary evidence contained in this, Ali?
Yes, I think that would be a surprise. I'm just going to read you another section. This is on page 36. Further support can be found in the contemporaneous WhatsApp messages involving me, which are in the committee's possession. On the 10th of December 2021, I sent a message to Jack Doyle stating, is there a way we could get the truth about this party out there? I trusted the assurances that Jack Doyle and others had given me, so I wanted the truth as they had explained it, and as I honestly believed it to be published. I used party as shorthand because that is how it was being referred to in the media. So this is Boris Johnson talking about an exchange with Jack Doyle, who had been head of communications, saying, is there any way that the truth about this, sorry, I've actually lost that message, that the truth about this party, that we could get the truth about this party out there. I trusted the assurances that Jack Doyle and others were giving me, so I wanted the truth. As they had explained it honestly, believed it to be published, I used party as a shorthand. So he is basically explaining why he was using the word party in a message, saying that he was basically following what was being said in the media. It goes on to say in another section, I understand that the press was briefed with the line COVID rules have been followed at all times at around 5:16 p.m. I cannot recall now whether I had sight of that line before it was briefed, but it would have been produced by the media team and then presented to me. Based on my diary, I believe that I did not know about or prove the line before it was given to the Daily Mirror. So this is Boris Johnson basically saying, hold on, I did not know about this, suggesting that he was acting on advice of officials, suggesting that he didn't know about things before they were briefed to the media. So that, I think, is a big part of his defence. And I'm sure we will also find, as we get through this dossier, potentially questions about the process itself. Worth saying, Chris Bryant, who had chaired the Privileges Committee, did recuse himself over claims that he had basically been biased against Boris Johnson. Harriet Harman, now chairing that Privileges Committee, they will have the power to reach a verdict on whether Boris Johnson recklessly misled Parliament and recommend a punishment. Potentially, we could be talking about a suspension that could even, down the line, lead to a by-election in his seat. That is, we're not there yet, but that is the sort of worst case scenario for Boris Johnson. So this is certainly a big moment for
And Ali, I found another interesting piece. It's on page 48. I don't know if we're able to bring it up. Point 100 on page 48, which he's sort of doubling down on what he says. I never received any warning before any event that anyone had any concerns that an event might break the rules or guidance. No one advised me after any of these events that they were against the rules or guidance, or more importantly, that they'd been allowed to go on in such a way as to breach the rules or guidance. No one came to me and said we had a problem with a particular event that had gone on unnecessarily in the Cabinet Office or in the Press Office. The committee has trawled the contemporaneous documents and not found a single record that indicates that I ever received any such warning. At the time, it seemed implausible to me that there could have been unlawful events at Number 10 without one of my many officials making me aware of it. So, you know, very much repeating the line that he has had and given the Parliament already, is that he believes if there were concerns about events, he should have been told about them in advance, and that there is absolutely no evidence that he was told about them in advance. And because he wasn't told about them, he thinks he's off the hook, and he thinks that he didn't behave unlawfully, Ali.
Yes, that's right. You know, he's basically saying, hold on, I wasn't told in advance. This wasn't something I knew about it, therefore, how could I have done anything differently? As you say, saying that he never received any warning. No one came to me with any problem, he says. So, yes, Boris Johnson, as one person put it to me yesterday who is not on Boris Johnson's side on this, either he will be found to have been untrustworthy or careless/stupid, as they put it, for not knowing what was going on in Number 10 at the time. But he is saying that he was never received any warning, No one came to him with any problems at the time. I'll read you another section. He says, as explained above, prior to my statements to the House, I spoke to senior officials who had attended the event on the 18th of December. It was reasonable for me to find out what had happened from the people who were actually there. In forming my honest and reasonable belief, I also relied on what I had been told. As I explained above, I never received any warning before any event that anyone had concerns that an event might break the rules or guidelines.